So today, we're diving into a test for 6-year-olds that's become one of the most debated things in education. And at its heart, you've got this fascinating puzzle. It's pure science for some pretty intense real-world pressure.
And that puzzle really boils down to this one kind of weird question. Why on earth are we asking little kids to read words that literally don't exist? I mean, words that are basically from another planet. And look, we're not talking about anything super complex here. We're talking about words like zog or flimp or square. They look like English words. They feel like they could be English words, right? But they're not. They're what's known as pseudo-words. And these things are the key to this whole story. So, where does all this happen? It's part of a short mandatory test called the Phonics Screening Check. The official goal? It's pretty straightforward. Just to check if kids can decode words using phonics, at the level they should be for their age. But right here, this is where we hit the core problem. On one hand, is this check a brilliant diagnostic tool, something that helps teachers find and support the kids who need it most? Or, on the other hand, has it morphed into a high-stakes test that's used to judge schools and creates a whole bunch of problems? That's the tension we're going to dig into. Okay, so to really get why these alien words are such a big deal, we've got to take a quick peek under the hood at the actual science of how our brains learn to read. And this science is all built around an idea called the dual route hypothesis. It's a really cool theory that basically says your brain has not one, but two totally different ways to read a word out loud. Let me break it down for you. Think of it like driving. First, you've got the superhighway. That's for all the words you know by heart, the ones you recognize instantly. You see the word cat, you just know it's cat. It's fast, it's effortless. But then, you've also got the scenic route. This is the one you take for words you've never seen before. It's slower, yeah, it takes more work, because you have to sound it out, piece by piece, using your phonics rules.
And this is the whole point of the Phonics Check. See, a kid could be fantastic at memorizing words for that superhighway, but that can actually hide a big problem. The alien words, they're designed to completely block that memory highway. They force the brain to take that scenic route. It's a pure, clean test of one single thing. Can you decode a word you have never, ever seen before?
So once you get the science, you start to see, okay, this check could actually be a really powerful tool. So let's look at the evidence. What does the data say? All right, if you're looking for the one number that really makes the case for this thing, here it is. A whopping 88%. That's what they call the check's sensitivity. So what on earth does that mean? Well, it means the test is really good at its main job. It correctly flags almost 9 out of every 10 kids who genuinely need extra help with reading. I mean, think about that. That's a huge deal. It's like a safety net that almost never misses. And the data backs this up even more. It's not just a fluke. The scores from this check are a really strong predictor of how well a kid will understand what they read later on. But, and this is key, it doesn't really correlate with their math skills. Why does that matter? It shows the test is laser-focused on one thing, decoding. It's not just a general IQ test, it's a precision tool. And this tool is supposed to kick off an actual plan. The whole system is meant to be a cycle, right? You spot the struggling kids early in year 1, then you give them focused help to catch up, and then you check on them again in year 2 to see if it worked. It basically makes sure schools step in early before it's too late. But, and there's always a but, this is where the story gets complicated. What happens when this really smart diagnostic tool gets all mixed up with school rankings and league tables? What happens when the tool itself becomes the target? So you've got to be asking, right? If the science is solid, and the tool is so good at finding kids who need help, what's the catch? Why is this thing so controversial? Well, the catch is, what happens when you make the results a really big deal? All of a sudden, teachers say the curriculum starts to shrink. It becomes all about passing the test. The love of reading, that can get pushed aside for endless drills. Some schools even start hothousing their kids, which is basically just intense cramming. And maybe the most troubling thing of all, the pressure gets so high that the data starts to look a little weird. And this graph right here, this is probably the single most powerful piece of evidence for the prosecution. You'd expect the scores to look like a nice, smooth bell curve, but they don't. Look at that. There's this giant, totally unnatural spike right at the number 32, which, surprise, surprise, is the exact score you need to pass. For any statistician, that is a massive red flag. And the researchers don't pull any punches. They say this spike raises doubts about the assessment's integrity. I mean, what it suggests is that somewhere along the line, scores are being, let's say, nudged just enough to get over that pass mark. The pressure to perform is potentially poisoning the well, corrupting the very data the test is designed to give us. So where do we go from here? Let's try and bring these two completely different stories about the phonics check together and figure out what's really going on. When you lay it all out, the contrast is pretty stark. On one side, you have the tool. It's great. The science behind it is solid, it's amazing at finding kids who are struggling, and it makes sure they get help. But then you have the test, and as a test, it's a mess. The high stakes are messing with the data, it's squeezing the curriculum, and it's promoting cramming instead of real learning. And that really gets to the heart of it. The crucial point is this. You have this scientifically brilliant diagnostic tool that's being completely weakened because we're also using it as a high-stakes accountability test. The problem isn't the tool, it's what we're doing with it. So that leaves us with one last and maybe the most important question. The question isn't, does the alien word test work? Because, the science is pretty clear that it does. The real question is this. How do we rescue this incredibly useful tool from all the pressure that comes with being a high-stakes test? How do we get to keep the good parts, the diagnosis, without falling into the trap